Hello everyone and welcome to my video today. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's Tracy and I'm For the Love of Stamping, and today I have for you a fancy fold card that I'm making for Father's Day. It features an origami golf shirt on the front, and of course, using the Country Club suite from Stampin' Up, I'm using the designer series paper and the stamp set. The Country Club suite is retiring for the next catalog release, which is June the 3rd. So you have until June the 3rd to get your hands on the designer series paper, the stamp set, the dies, and the twine that goes with the suite. One thing that is carrying over out of that suite is the Argyle, absolutely Argyle embossing folder, which we will use on the card that I'll make when we're demonstrating, but I didn't use it on this one. So to make this card, you're going to need a number of supplies, quite a bit of cardstock, which I've already pre-cut myself. So to make the origami shirt, you're going to require the designer series paper, the Country Club designer series paper, which I've cut at 3 3/4 by 5 1/2. You'll also require a piece of cardstock that's going to go on the inside where we have our golfer and the greeting, and it measures 3 1/4 by 3 3/4. Once you've made your origami shirt, we're going to place that on top of 2 layers that you can see on my card. Let me just bring this into view. Now what I'm doing different on this card is I'm going to layer in the Whisper White cardstock, which is measuring 3 by 3, but I've run it through the Absolutely Argyle embossing folder. And I'm going to layer it onto a piece of Night of Navy cardstock measuring 3 1/8 by 3 1/8. In addition, once you layer those together, the panel pieces are Native Navy as well as the Country Club Designer Series paper. The Night of Navy cardstock measures 1 7/8 by 3 7/8, and then I layered the Designer Series paper, which is 1 3/4 by 3 3/4, and they'll layer right on top. You will then take all of that and layer it onto a piece of 4 by 11 inch garden green cardstock, which I've already pre-scored at 2 inches, 3 3/4, 7 1/4, and 9 inches. And then all of that layers onto a piece of Night of Navy cardstock, which I'm going to have as my base, which is the 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. So let's start off by making the origami shirt. It's very easy to do. I've taken my 3 3/4 by 5 1/2 inch cardstock, and I actually put it into my Simply Scored tool so that I could score it at 1 7/8 of an inch, just to make it easier to get my first fold. Literally, I'm just folding this piece of cardstock in half, but what you want to ensure is as you're doing this, you're making all of these folds really crisp. So we're going to use the bone folder for that. I'll open it up and take the one at edge, and I'm going to fold it into the center, and I'll take the other one and I'll fold that one into the center. Please try to make sure that you do get these to touch each other. That's going to make your card look that much cleaner. And again, we need to use the bone folder to really press those creases. So next step, we need to make the sleeves of the shirt. And when I started making these origami little shirts, I thought this was going to be the collar, but it's not. So you're going to take this corner here and you're going to fold it down, but you want to get it so that when you do your fold, it comes right to that peak on the upper right corner. So I'm going to take my cardstock and I'm going to fold it. And sometimes I like to use my bone folder because it helps to sort of guide myself. And I'm making the sleeves. So like so. I'm bringing it probably close to, I don't know, maybe about 1 1/4 down. And I will fold and score. And I'll rotate that around. I'm going to repeat it. Now I want to make sure that I get these aligned here and then right into that corner. So I'll start by doing that one. Sorry for flipping around, but you know, sometimes it's easier once you're moving it in a different, on a different angle. So now I've created the second sleeve, and the next piece is to create the collar. So we're going to flip this over and we're going to take the bottom and we're going to fold it up about 1/4 of an inch, like so. And this will make our collars. So again, press it down, grab your bone folder and really give it a good press, because we want that to lay nice and flat. All right, flip it back over again, and now take this corner here and bring it down to your center. This is going to create our collar. So it's a little tricky because we're now getting bulky with the cardstock. So you're going to want to play with it, but you do want to make sure that you get that little point to go right to that score line. And that looks fabulous. So we'll do that, pressing it with my bone folder, and I'll repeat it on the other side. Now I'm going to take this corner and match it to the edge of the collar over here. And again, grab my bone folder and really press that down. If you find that these little collars tend to stick up a little bit, you can always use a glue dot to stick underneath and really secure them down. The last piece of this is to take the bottom and fold it up and tuck it under the flaps of the collar, like so. I folded it so well that now I can't get it in. There we go. And then line up your score line that you have with the center score line that you see between the collar. And once you tuck it in and press it straight down and use your bone folder once again. And that creates your little golf shirt. Isn't that cute? Oh, I had so much fun making these, you know, and I played around with various sizes, and I started off with the Tropical Oasis Designer Series paper and made some cute little, you know, Hawaiian shirts. Thought they were kind of fun to play with. So I got a whole bunch of those lying around now. All right, so now that that's done, I can set that aside for the time being. I'm going to take my 2 layers and I'm going to work from the top down. So my 3 1/8 by 3 1/8 and then the white that I run through the Absolutely Argyle embossing folder, and I'm going to adhere those together. So I'll take a little bit of Tombow glue and I will put that around the edges like so. And I'll put some into the center as well. Just make sure that everybody stays down. And now I'm going to lay that into the center of my Night of Navy cardstock. And the nice thing, as you know, with Tombow is it gives you that opportunity to just maneuver and wiggle your layer around so that you ensure that you get a nice framed, even border all the way around, like so. So I think for me, I'm going to turn it this way. There is a bit of a difference if you turn it this way for that way. I like the diamonds to be more straight, more pronounced. So I will take that and I'm going to use some red line tape to adhere these together. So lid on the Tombow, grab some red line. This stuff we don't sell anymore. I just happened to find a roll. You know what happens when you clean out your stamp room and you find things that you haven't seen in forever, and you get to use them. So now I'm going to just use this stuff up because this is great stuff for holding things down like this. You want to ensure that it really sticks in place. You don't want it lifting up and falling off, of course. And then we'll take another piece and I'm going to put it up closer to the top. So right up here. And I always like to use my bone folder to press it because it tends to help release that piece of red backing from the adhesive itself. And then I'm going to grab my little pick and get underneath and lift up the edge and take that tape off, that backing off. There we go. Once you get it started, then it comes off nice and easy. Now, we need to take our shirt and we need to center it into the middle of the square. So I like using my grid plate paper to make sure that my square is straight. So I'll line it up along the edges here and then I'll place this down and make sure that I've got it straight before I press it completely down. And there we go. So that's the top layer. I like it so much better with the designer paper. It just adds a little bit of texture. I mean, I liked what I did here, but I found it was kind of plain. So this gives it just a little extra oomph. That's my word for the day. oomph. All right, so now we have our 2 panels that are 1 7/8 by 3 7/8 in Night of Navy. And then I'm gonna take my designer series paper, and I'm just gonna make sure that I've got them lined up, because these are going together, I wanted to make sure that the lines matched each other. Tend to want to do that when you have a designer series paper with a design on it that matches like so. So what I'll do is I'll just flip these over like this, and I think I'll use some Tombow glue, and I'll just start to cover the back side of this with the Tombow. Make sure I get enough around the edges so everybody stays down, and then I will layer that onto my Night of Navy cardstock like so, making sure that I get the even frame all the way around and that I get it straight. Okay, there's number 1, and we'll do number 2. And some Tombow in the center. Pick it up without getting glue all over myself like I just did. And lay that one on top of this piece. Like so. All right, and I'll press that down as well. Okay, so now I have my 2 pieces. Good. Now, I've got a piece of the garden green cardstock. I think I told you that it measures 4 by 11, which I've already pre-scored again at 2, 3 3/4, 7 1/4, and 9. And the folding of this is very easy. You're just going to take the right side and fold it in along your inner scored line, crease it, and take the edge and fold it back, and crease it, and press it, burnish it. You know what I mean. And I'll do the same on the other side. I'll fold it in, and then I'll fold it back. Great. All right, so now you see it all lines up nicely. I'm going to adhere this onto my Night of Navy cardstock, and I need to, center it top to bottom, left to right. So I will use, again, Tombow, just because I know I can manipulate and move it around if I don't quite get it where I want it to be. So we'll just lay a bead of Tombow like so. All right, and I'm going to line this up onto the Night of Navy. So let's get it straight on the grid paper. Let's hold it like so. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, looks pretty good. All right, so we'll place it there. Pick it up, make sure that it looks good and straight, which once you fold it down, it looked a little off, so there. So that gives me the little fancy fold that we're going to now lay our panels onto. So again, just making sure that they're going the right way, that they match each other. Take some more Tombow. Tombow's your friend. Oh, did you guys know that Stampin' Up is coming out with some new tape runners? They've found a new and improved version, which I can't get my hands on just yet, but come June 3rd, I will be buying some of it just to see how it is. There's 2 kinds. There's one that's a permanent, and then one that is intended, also permanent, but intended for, the stronger required holds. So that's coming on the 3rd of June. So watch out for that. My catalogs are stuck at a depot for UPS, which have been there for a week. COVID has really given us a bit of trouble when it comes to shipments, which is unfortunate, but we have to live with it. Still have some time before the catalog goes live, so hopefully they arrive next week. They've been there, like I said, for a week, so, but I have to say I'm not the only one waiting. Anyhow, so now we're just going to put our panel on the inside here. I had pre-stamped my golfer ahead of time just to save us a little bit of time. And we're going to color this with blends. So I'll just move my fancy fold out of the way. And I'm going to grab my blends cardstock, or markers, excuse me. I always like to put a piece of paper underneath because the blends will bleed through. So the blends that we're going to use on our card will be the light seaside for the pants, trousers, whatever they're called. The light navy is going to be for his hat. The light smoky slate is going to be for the golf club and the soles of his shoes. I've got a dark shaded spruce, which I'm going to just lightly color down here for the grass so he doesn't look like he's floating. And then the light seafoam will be his shirt. So let's start with his shirt. These are the greatest markers. I'm so glad that Stampin' Up! Has come back out with them. Years ago, Stampin' Up! Had what they called blendabilities, and they had a few issues with them, and unfortunately they had to take them off the market because things they couldn't get the manufacturer to fix the issues with them. And so recently, about a year and a half ago, Stampin' Up! Re-released them called Stampin' Blends. These are fabulous markers. They are alcohol-based markers, and you want to make sure that when you're using them, you always put the caps back on because of it being an alcohol base. It will tend to dry out the marker tip if you don't cover them up. So I'll do his pants using the light seaside, and as I color here, you can see the benefit of these markers is that you don't see any streaking. And if you want to come back in and give a little extra depth, once you've finished coloring the legs, you can come back where you see some of these shaded areas and just do a little bit of extra, and it just darkens it a little bit more. And that gives you the depth and the illusion that, you can see the creases a lot better. Great, great markers. All right, so there's the pants. I'm going to do the belt in the dark night of navy along with his hat. So let's just color lightly right in here. And honestly, I'm just barely touching that tip to the cardstock. You don't have to press hard. You want to be sure that you're not, excuse me, going to break the nibs on them. So I'm just going to come in here just to match the hat with his belt because he's a very fashionable golfer. He likes to make sure that everything coordinates. Okay, that looks pretty good. Oop, missed a little spot. Okay. And now I'll do the soles of his shoes with the light smoky slate. Notice I put I have noticed as I age here that it's hard to read some small things. So I had a P-Touch label maker and I labeled all my markers so that I could see what the heck they said. I mean, I could guess by color, but sometimes you may not get the right one. And if you can't read the thing, which I was having trouble with, then the easiest thing to do is just put a little indication on what they are. So let's just finish off the golf club as well. All right, now just the grass. Again, I am using the tip, but I again am barely going to touch the surface of the cardstock, and I'm actually going to sort of dab it on here. I wanted to, give some color. And if the benefit of being able to dab, you have you can move it up and down and sort of not get a straight line, just give it some extra texture and depth, okay? Like so. I'm just going to follow each of these lines that were created with the stamp itself. And I don't know if you can hear the tap, 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 but that's all I'm doing. I just wanted to make sure it didn't look like the dude was floating. So there you go. So I've done about 3 of these cards already, and all of them are Father's Day cards, and I only have 2 dads, so I don't need another one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this one into a birthday card. So out of the Clubhouse stamp set, which I didn't show you at the beginning, but it's got some really nice stamps in here. I made a few cards using the golf ball and the tee, and for my actual card that I did initially, I took the stamp, and I didn't want all of the outline on this stamp, so I took my Night of Navy Stampin' Right marker, and you probably know this technique, but if you don't, you just take the edge and you just do this with it, and that will allow you to focus where you want the color and not end up doing the entire stamp. Because like I said, I didn't want that much on there. I wanted to leave some room to write stuff. So all you do is just cover it over like so, and then you literally huff on it. You breathe on the stamp to re-moisten the marker. I'm not going to stamp it here. I'll just stamp it on my paper here. And I breathe on it, and then you just stamp straight down. See? Now I got a little bit on the edge, but that's okay. I mean, this was just to give you an idea how you use that stamp with a marker to be able to just focus in on specific areas of a stamp. But we're going to use the stamp, and we're going to use the Night of Navy Classic ink to stamp the greeting. So let's move this up here, and I hope I got my stamp on straight. It's going to be as straight as it can be. I'll get rid of my scrap paper here. And I'll line this up onto my grid paper. And I'm going to stamp it down maybe here. Yeah, please be straight. Ah, jeez, I lucked out. That's pretty good. That looks good to me. All right, so to finish our card, we have two things left to do. One, we're going to put the golfer right on the inside, like so. And then we're going to close the flaps, and we're going to take our origami golf shirt, and we're going to put adhesive along the back side of the left here to adhere it to just one flap. You don't want to put it on both sides or your card won't open up. So let's start with our golfer, and I'll use my snail. I still have quite a bit of the snail left, the old style, so I'll be using all that up so that I can make room for the new stuff. I love getting new stuff, and I think what I'll probably do is I'm going to do a catalog launch, so I'll do another video for everybody to join in and be able to watch as I reveal all the things that I buy, which at this point is probably most of the catalog. All right, so then the front of the card, we're just going to take our origami shirt, and I'm going to lay it on top, and I'm going to use Tombow glue with this because I want to be able to, move it around. So we know it needs to be this side, so just put that there so I remember. And I'll grab my Tombow glue, and I'll just lay a nice bead of Tombow onto the surface of the navy cardstock. And I don't want to go too far because I do not want to close and seal my card shut. And then all I have to do now is lay this right on top. And again, with the Tombow, you get to move it around. So, and what's also good is this designer series paper has lines on it, so I know that I'm getting it straight. All right, there we go. So we'll press that down, hold it for a moment just to make sure that it stays nice and secure. And voila, our card is made. Super easy. Love the idea of the way this opens up. If you wanted more space to be able to write a message, we could take a piece of Whisper White cardstock, put it on the back, and then write our message on the back. And then the card just stands up like so. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. It's Tracy at For the Love of Stamping. Be sure to order your Country Club Suite items before they retire in a few weeks. And you can find all that on my Stampin' Up online site, which is For the Love of Stamping. Take care and have a fabulous day. Talk to you soon.